It's been a rough few years for the Desert Rangers. When the world ended, they tried to bring some order to what was left of Arizona. Then, the Cochise AI woke up, and they found themselves in a fight to the death with its robot army. In the end, they had to nuke their own base to kill the damn thing for good. Been hard going ever since. Then, the Rangers heard from a fella calling himself the Patriarch. Said he owned Colorado, but his kids were trying to steal it from him. And if the Rangers were to come and put him in their place, he'd give Arizona all the food and supplies it needed to rebuild and survive.
Wasteland 3 is successful in so many ways. Its turn-based combat is challenging and requires thoughtful strategy. Its character progression is deeply customizable and allows for a wide range of role-playing opportunities. And perhaps best of all, its narrative is immediate and driven by player choice. This game is a complete package in all the ways a great RPG can be.
Reported an alternate route across a frozen lake. Find it.
Copy that.
Wasteland 3 tells the story of Team November, a ranger dispatched from Arizona who are on a critical mission to Colorado to secure supplies for their beleaguered territory. A man known as the Patriarch, who claims to be in control of Colorado, has promised the Rangers all the supplies they would need if they help bring back his 3 wayward children, who are all vying to overthrow him. Shortly after arriving, the Ranger convoy is ambushed by bandits, and as the only survivor, it's up to you to reassemble the Ranger presence in Colorado and carry out the mission.
Yeah. It's been a rough road lately.
This provides the core narrative structure of Wasteland 3. Each of the Patriarch's children are located in a different corner of the map. You'll go to each one, figure out what to do with them, and report back to the Patriarch. Side quests that you encounter along the way fill in more of the story of Colorado and its various warring factions, and there are a lot of them. Clowns, cannibals, high-tech raiders, presidential worshippers, and more have all staked their claim over bits and pieces of the Colorado wastes.
Rangers, you came! We're in dire straits here. Those twisted psychopaths want us all dead.
The utter chaos unfolding between these factions provides a fascinating counter to life within the confines of Colorado Springs, the town that the Patriarch has successfully made a safe haven. Wasteland 3 constantly presents the player with moral dilemmas regarding the Patriarch's rule and the horrors encountered in the wastes. In fact, one of the game's greatest strengths is how quickly it responds to player decisions. It doesn't take long for the consequences of narrative choices to become apparent, and because every side quest feeds back into the story of the Patriarch in some way, the overall narrative is frequently brought into question, as is the player's comfort in sticking to the original mission. Everyone in Colorado has been affected by the Patriarch's rule in one way or another, and the game leaves it up to the player to judge the man's leadership.
Thank you. It's been too long since I've dealt with my problems firsthand.
Wasteland 3 is broken up into distinct zones, primarily towns and faction encampments that are scattered throughout a world map. This world map is traversed using an all-terrain vehicle called the Kodiak, providing a bit of downtime between missions. On foot, the player controls a squad of up to 6 members. 4 of these members can be rangers, selected from a pool, or customized from the ground up. At the start, you actually have the opportunity to select from a few different pre-made duos, but creating your initial 2 rangers yourself is far more exciting. You customize their appearance, skills, attributes, and starting weapons. And you also have the opportunity to select a quirk, which are unique traits that have positive and negative impacts. The other 2 slots are reserved for companions who are met and can be recruited during the course of the adventure. The game actually provides the first 2 companions very quickly, and I ended up sticking with them for the entire game. During conversations, these companions will occasionally chime in with their thoughts on whatever's going down. They also have their own moral boundaries and will leave the squad if something crosses the line. The 4 Ranger party members never chime in during conversations, but they are a bit chatty during combat, providing them with at least a touch of personality. I really love Wasteland 3's character progression, not only for the unique playstyles it allows for, but also for how quickly the game evolves as your characters level up. There are so many different skills here: lockpicking, hacking, big guns, intimidation, weapon modding, barter, leadership, animal whisperer, toaster repair. It almost becomes overwhelming until you remember that you can pretty effectively spread these skills out across the 6 party members. Everywhere you go in this game there are skill checks, and even alternate skill checks for things that you can't access. My teammate Crash was better at hacking before she became a lockpicking expert, so I was able to remotely open certain doors that I couldn't just pick my way through. My ability to be a hard-ass was sufficient enough to intimidate an opponent into sparing a friend's life, but my inability to be a good enough kiss-ass prevented me from convincing my friend to do the same.
His name in vain? Kill the blasphemers! Brace yourselves!
Even between similarly skilled party members, there is room for variation. I had 2 designated healers in my squad. One of them received a 2x damage bonus for a couple turns after reviving a teammate, while the other, thanks to their high leadership skill, would grant the entire party a quick health boost after performing a revive. I also had 2 runners, as I like to call them, who could cover a lot of ground in one turn. One of them could sprint behind enemy lines to hack robots and turrets, while the other would get in close with a high-powered revolver and land devastating critical shots. This gunslinger was also a skilled mechanic, so in addition to repairing power systems outside of combat, she could also deploy turrets and other robot helpers during a fight. The game's turn-based combat is really excellent in how it takes full advantage of the way you choose to build each party member. And each weapon type has advantages and disadvantages as well. I chose to stick entirely with guns for my whole squad, but there are ways to build melee and fisticuffs characters as well. The Kodiak even becomes an additional party member during combat encounters on the world map and in certain story moments with absolutely crushing efficiency. Disappointingly, the combat is also where the game is at its buggiest, with minor issues popping up here and there, making for a rather inconsistent experience. Things like exploding barrels inexplicably not exploding and the UI not clearly indicating when I've selected or deselected an ability can have consequential impacts on battle. Other issues like the rally ability, which is supposed to give everyone 2 more action points for that turn, not working half the time, had me reloading quick saves more often than I wanted to. I also missed way more 95% shots than what should have been possible. I'm used to like XCOM percentage tomfoolery, but this was on a whole other level. Finally, the game has some pretty gnarly frame rate drops that seem to kind of occur out of nowhere, tanking severely for a bit and then clearing up without explanation shortly after. Truth be told though, in spite of these issues, I have a pretty easy time calling Wasteland 3 one of the best RPGs I have ever played. It is a remarkably self-contained game in the sense that everything plays into everything else. Combat plays directly into character progression impacts exploration, exploration leads to side quests, and the side quests feed directly into the main narrative one way or another. Every system in the game is interconnected and focused. It's also got a wickedly entertaining sense of humor and a killer soundtrack with vocals that make certain combat encounters particularly memorable. More importantly though, it never wastes time, which is maybe the best thing you can say about an RPG today.
Attack is now underway. Proceed to the nearest civil defense shelter immediately. This is not a drill. Stay tuned to this frequency.
Come on, Doctor. Show 'em how we do it in phase. Whoa! Welcome to our commune, Desert Rangers. Pretendes no? That's squish! I'm squish! See!
But that's the thing about the Rangers. It doesn't matter how hard it gets, or how many of them fall. They keep on fighting. The Rangers never stop fighting.
fuzzy crunchers and climby snappers and skittery two-bites and running gushers. Sometimes roly poppers and hoppy specks. Once a squirmy slurp.